Well, hello everybody. I hope this is all working. This is my first outdoor stream with a mini studio inside a tent. So it's going to be an entertaining evening in one way or the other. And as I said at the very beginning, or mentioned, this is going to be trying a wood stove in the tent and hot tenting on a very, well actually as it's turned out to be, a calm evening. It was freezing cold earlier on and it was raining, but it's fine now. So it'll still be a bit of fun, a good bit of experiment. What I must first say is welcome to everybody, of course, that's watching. Unfortunately, we're over on YouTube rather than YouTube and Facebook. Facebook threw a wobbly tonight, and after I started the stream, I can't stop it and start again. So there you go. So that was a bit of a problem. But we are live and running on YouTube, and hopefully a really good signal as well, because that's the one thing about YouTube, you get a much better quality. Well, inside the tent I've got a 3-camera studio set up for everybody that likes a little bit of technology, and shows you a bit of the space in there as well. So I suppose I better pop in. Incidentally, thanks to we've got well, 13 or so in the chat room, which is nice to see. So do say hi where you're watching from, and if you've got any questions generally either about this setup, the stove, or any other camping questions, then do fire in. Right, let's have a look inside the tent. Well, hopefully, are we back? That's the question. No, it appears to be frozen, which is not a good look.
It came up error
Again. Let's have a look. Sorry about this, folks. If you're getting this, just as I headed outside, YouTube suddenly said it wasn't receiving enough information, and obviously I want to make sure that is not the case. So if you're in the chat room, if you could say you're getting the signal okay, I'd appreciate it. At the moment, it looks like I've frozen, which is not good.
It's gone inside now to the tent.
So it's inside the tent, is it?
It's still saying there's not enough video.
Okay, right. If everybody is listening, I am going to stop this stream and start it again, and hopefully that might just alleviate the problem. So if you could just put that in the chat room, please, Rose. That would be great. Thanks, John. I got your comment there. Video and sound here. That's good. But unfortunately, YouTube's saying it's not receiving enough data, so I'm going to have to reboot the stream itself, and we'll start again. You sent the message out, love? Yeah. Okie dokie. Right, I'm going to stop and start again, folks. Sorry about this. Okay, starting again now. Let's change to the exterior shot of the tent.
It's inside the tent,
Yeah, it should be outside.
yeah.
Right, let's see if that's worked. Okay, I think we're back. Audio's working. Stream appears to be working. Let's try again. Oh, the fun of it all. The fun of it all. Okay, let's see if it's working as I would like. I can see myself, which is always a nice thing. Right, let's start that again then. So first of all, welcome everybody that's stayed with me and are staying with the stream. Sorry about the technical issues. Everything was going fine as always, but hey, that's technology for you. And as I said tonight, Facebook decided to throw a wobbly, so we're not on Facebook, we're just keeping to YouTube, which is normally a fantastic solid signal. And all I can do is hope that it stays that way. So thanks everybody for sticking with me. As I sort of said, this is going to be a bit of a chat. I'm going to have a brew in here when I get the fire going, and I've got some other stuff to have a nibble on when that gets going. And I thought I'd just show people what it's like with hot tenting. Now, I'm not the greatest expert in the world when it comes to stoves in tents. They make me feel a bit nervous, to be honest. But let's just pop inside and see what we've got. Well, as you can see, I've got the ever faithful chair here. Let's just pop that down there so I can actually see it, which is useful. And with the different cameras, I could show you the stove. Now, I'm not going to go on about the stove and promote the stove, in all honesty, because it isn't the best stove in the world. It is one which I picked up a few years back called the Woodsman stove, and if people want the link, Rose, it's on the desktop there on the left hand side. It's an older model. The new model is slightly different, and I have to say it's not the best stove in the world as regards performance. I've got another one which I think was an earlier Frontier stove, and that has proved to be a much better stove for general having a fire and so on in the garden, and also occasionally in the tent. So if anybody's got any questions or whatever, let's see if I've got the questions coming up. That should be happening. Okay, that's great. Ian McDougall, thank you very much. Sounds good, video good now. That's excellent news. Ian Ant Fairclough, thanks very much. Thumbs up. Flying Sprout, nice to see you again. Philip Winter, hope you're still with me. And John He and Mark Osland, to name but a few. Excellent. Let's see how it all goes then, guys. Right, what have I got here then? Well, once the stove gets going, which it does get going eventually, it just doesn't keep the heat as well as the other stove, the Frontier stove. I've got a kettle there for some water for a brew, and I've brought a lovely little novel idea. It's great for the kids and family, popcorn. And so once the stove gets up to a reasonable heat, we'll fire up some popcorn and make some nibbles, which is always good fun. So, how is everybody doing at the moment with the great situation that we're all in? Hi Mark, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you. Welcome to my boudoir. I've got a couple of lights up there just to cast some light in. It's obviously a bit dark, it's just turning dusk. And well, I suppose I could do a walk around the outside of the tent if everybody wants a walk around the outside. Show you what's going on. In my little mini studio here, I've got my 3 cameras. And once this gets going, this fire, I have to say, even though I'm not that impressed with it, it gives out a beautiful amount of heat. So much so that I put a cot in here at the weekend and fell asleep quite happily for a couple of hours with the doors open. It was just magnificent. It was just the right heat for, well, after a couple of bevies, to be honest. One Wheel Mob, you've ordered a Megahorn today. Excellent, thank you very much indeed. I hope you enjoy it. A Megahorn 3 or the Megahorn 2? 3, I trust. You seem to have sent out quite a few 3s at the moment. This is, as I say, the Luxe Megahorn 3. The difference between the Megahorn 3 and the 2, for anybody that's interested, is the Megahorn 3 has a chimney and a cover for the chimney. It's also coated in fire retardant liquid, whatever they do, with fire retardant material. And when you buy the Megahorn 3, you buy it on its own, and you have to buy it comes with a pole, and then you buy the inners to suit you, whether you want the winter inner, the summer inner, or the family inner. Oh, we're cooking. Yes, getting going. Which is called the Megahorn 2. I'll put those in there. The Megahorn 2 doesn't have the chimney hole, and it comes with the standard summer inner, which is the mesh inner, which just hooks up onto the, can you see better there? Try that one. Yeah, that's better. So where those 2 lights are there, the inner just hooks up there somewhere into one of the holes. There's a bug netting around the top there to stop the bugs getting in. And when you're using it during the day, you just unhook it, drop it down, so then you've got the complete floor area, and you can just use it as a boudoir, a bed to do that with, which works quite well. Right, is the signal coming out okay, guys? Everything's still loud and clear? Let's have a look at the YouTube feedback. Yes, it seems to be doing what it should be doing, which is nice. Shame about the beginning, but there you go. Such is life. Can't find anywhere to put this. Does the tent come with a chimney outlet, Mark? The Megahorn 3 does, yes. Over there, there's the outlet. You get a nylon cover to keep it waterproof, and then you get the what's the name? The stove jack as well, and they all velcro onto the outside. So if you don't want the stove jack, you just put the nylon on it. If you do want the stove jack, you can put the stove jack in, and the stove jack's got a flap on it as well, so it tucks up the chimney. In fact, let me take the camera outside and show you that while I can, before these batteries go flat. So I've got mobile camera. So there you go. So you have your stove jack there, the flap that obviously stops the water coming down into it, and this is a tent protector. So that's the chimney. Obviously it came with this stove, and I bought a tent protector which obviously gives a, I don't know, ½ inch or so around the outside, so that the heat can dissipate nicely and not damage the material. So that's the one thing you've got to be careful of. I know I've seen a lot of pictures, particularly in America, where they put the stove chimney straight through, and it always concerns me if they get it red hot that this will actually melt under the amount of heat, as we've had with the previous customer. But I managed to pitch the tent properly. I think I did a video earlier on, I didn't quite get it right, but I've got the angles right now, so I'm much more pleased with that. And pinning open the door like this gives you a nice little vestibule area. And then of course you've got the back door as well if you want to do exactly the same thing at the back. Let's just pop that there. I think the picture went slightly then, but we're back. So, how is everybody doing? How is everybody doing? Managing all right in this enforced situation that we're in? Obviously you can't get out very much. We're very lucky, and I'm not complaining at all from that point of view. We're lucky that we've got a very tiny house, but we bought this place with an orchard in the hope that we would do possibly tent shows or events or something similar at some stage, but it's turned out that videos are going to be the thing. So let's pop some popcorn in the old pan and see if we can get a few nibbles going. Drop those in once it starts popping. But as you can see, plenty of room, plenty of room. So how's everybody doing? Are they managing to refrain from too much shopping online? One wheel mob. I found myself in this tent hanging out a majority of the time at camp. I had to get one, and this one seemed very nice for the price. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's exceedingly good for the price. You get a lot of tent, and especially if you, I mean, I'm 6'2" and I can just stand up. My head's tilted to one side, but I can just stand up. So if you're, there are some people that need to stand to change for personal reasons, or they've got a bad back or something like that. That really helps. It's a great space to put a big cot in if you need the comfort of a cot that's well off the ground. Motorcyclists love it because they've got acres of space to chuck all their stuff, so you can come in, chuck all their stuff to one side, because panniers and helmets, I used to be a biker, panniers and helmets and boots take up a huge amount of space. And then you've still got enough space to sort everything else out, and if you need to, you can cook in the rain as well. Hi Neil, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. I take it the video's coming and going from a few comments people are saying. One Wheel Mob, you've also ordered the 3W stove. Can't wait to break it in Colorado. Went camping last week, very cold, and a buddy had a similar tent stove setup, something like that. Yeah, the 3W stove. Obviously, I think it's an American manufacturer, isn't it? The Winterwell stove is the equivalent over here, and we're thinking of getting the Winterwell stove in. But I mean, you're talking, I think it's 500, 600 quid for a stove. So you've got to really want one if you want one. but they are super light. I've seen the 3W actually. I bumped into a chap in Scotland, and he had the Megahorn up just by Loch side, and the 3W stove in, and it was impressive. I mean, incredibly light, and when it folded down was very impressive. But really, you know, a tent this sort of size, which is what, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilos, I guess, plus a stove, plus all the usual paraphernalia you take with you, you're not going to be carrying that very far. So hence the reason it's popular for motorists and motorcyclists and people that just, you know, want to do some decent bushcraft camping, really. Bike packing adventure. Hi, welcome along. Tent looks good and a good option for winter camping. However, I'm hoping you're eating those beans after you get out of the tent. Haha, they're not beans. They're not beans. It's, can you see that? It's popcorn. And when that starts popping, I'll chuck them all in and I shall sit and chobble on the popcorn. So, yeah, thanks for that. But in actual fact, I had beans for supper tonight before I got in. So I'll make sure I turn the microphone off when I set them free. So if there's any other camping questions anybody wants to ask, you know, I'm more than happy to give it a go if I can. There's been quite a lot of conversation going on from numerous people that I've seen online and on Facebook, all asking similar sort of questions about what's the best tent, what's the best sleeping bag, what's the best stove. And it's very difficult to answer those sort of questions because best is different for different people. Some people are sort of lightweight backpackers and want to keep things light and simple, and they might have a small pan. Other people might be taking family or a couple or small family or whatever else, and need a stove that's going to be able to simmer and cook for a number of people. So their setup's usually different. Then you've got people that just want to boil water and as fast as possible. They're not really interested in cooking as such, so their needs are different. And then you have people that want to keep things super light, and they sort of perhaps go down the alcohol stoves and like to just sit back and listen to total silence when they're cooking, and the cooking is a whole experience to them. So yeah, there's all sorts of advice floating around Tinternet at the moment. Mark, do you have any other stoves you can use in a tent? Not at the moment, Mark. As I say, we are looking at the Winterwell stove, but it's not. As I say, it's not cheap. I'm sure last time I looked, which was before Christmas, just before COVID, I think the retail price was about £500–600, and it did make me think, you know, are people going to spend that kind of money? But you tell me. Perhaps would that appeal to you? If it was it's very similar to the 3W stove, so I think it's titanium, it's folding, it's super light, it has that long straight flue pipe which you roll together, very, very similar. I don't know, it could be a copy for all I know, or 3Ws could have copied it, I have no idea, but it looks very good and it's had a lot of good write-ups. But 500 quid, is that in a reasonable price? I don't know. Neil Oakley. Bob, your best weight to warmth sleeping mat, just a thought. Well, certainly if you were looking for a mat like that, I would suggest you look obviously at the insulated mats. Exped do a good range, Thermarest do a good range. Then I would look at your needs, whether you are looking for a full length mat or you only need a shorter mat. And when you want warmth, are you talking winter warmth, or are you talking being warm and comfortable during 2 seasons, 3 seasons? Because then I would be tempted to mix a insulated mat with a foam mat for additional protection. I'm just going to sort the fire out. Additional protection and insulation. So it's a difficult one to answer. Everybody's got a favourite, and come on, burst into flames. Everyone's got a favourite, and needs are slightly different. So I guess I'd put it back to you and say, you know, what are your needs? You know, what are your needs yourself? Are you looking at winter camping? Are you looking at winter camping, or just being really comfortable and warm for sort of 2 season, 3 season? And then I'd weigh up the weight, and also there's a difference in a comfort factor from horizontal baffles to vertical baffles. And if you are a side sleeper, generally the long baffles are more comfortable than the horizontal baffles. However, the downside is when you sit on the mat, just sit in the middle, as it were, when the baffles are long baffles, the air pressure is much lower, so you will actually sit and touch the ground. Whereas on the horizontal baffles, the air pressure is higher, so it keeps you off the ground. Just a minor point. Oh, lots of comments. Right, okay. Mark, you're looking into the stove. Try and contact them. Yeah, good idea. Contact Winterwell, see what you think. Ian McDougall, yes, a camping question. Can you suggest a good ground protector for using with a wood stove? That would help add a slight instant on the balcony. Yes, I know what you mean. I've found, if you want something small and portable, a good combination is a plumber's brazing mat, which is usually a woven mat about so big, so square, about 12 inches square, and that will obviously protect the ground up to a certain amount, and then put some foil or a foil based sheet underneath it, like a folding windshield that you might pick up. So if you use the folding windshield first, then the brazing mat on top, then you have your wood stove, then you should find you're not actually setting fire to the balcony or to the ground. Bike packing adventure. I've always fancied a stove for tenting, and I've always been concerned when sleeping at night. Once you put the stove out, am I right to have the concerns, or is this different? You are absolutely right. I wouldn't sleep in here with this stove unless I had a carbon monoxide detector, and I checked it worked before I did it. I'm quite nervous about that type of thing. I think in the UK there's been about a dozen deaths. I think the last one I can think of was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, but it was somebody that had a portable barbecue, and they had their meal, obviously had a few drinks, left the barbecue in the vestibule, and died of carbon monoxide poisoning. And there's been other similar instances. So certainly, as lovely as this is now kicking out a nice little heat. I mean, it's not going mad. I'll change the cameras, you can see that. There you go. The fire isn't going particularly mad, but it's a lovely gentle heat that's kicking out, and it would certainly make for a pleasant evening. Oh, my water's about to boil as well by the looks of it, so I'll swap that for the popcorn. Get popcorn popping. So I totally agree with you. A bike packing adventure. I would be concerned about carbon monoxide, and I would not camp in a tent with a stove in it like this without a monoxide detector. Having said that, I've cooked in a small backpacking tent with the door held open like this, and never been concerned. But it's not been a wood stove, which is still smouldering at night, which is the problem, I guess. Alex Smith, I'm watching you, Bob. I still use my 3W stove and tent. Hope to bump into you in the pals back in Scotland sometime. Be lovely, Alex, to see you again. That'd be fantastic. Neil Oakley, cold sleeper, spring to autumn. Well, going back to what I was saying, I think I'd consider there are different TOG ratings for the insulated mats, and off the top of my head, I think the X-bed ones are the longitudinal tubes if you're a side sleeper, and I think they have more down in. So I would consider one of those, and if need be, as an additional thing, a foam mat underneath. Flying Sprout, what's my view on quilts? Quilts, I love them. I've changed over to quilts probably about 10 years ago, and the logic seemed fairly good logic. I'm sorry, I'm just watching the my steaming kettle. Is it ready to boil? I changed over to quilts about 10 years ago and introduced them to Rose, who's quite a fussy sleeper, to say the least. And she has since changed over and she won't go back to sleeping bags. The logic's quite good in the sense that most sleeping mats that we sleep on these days have got a good insulation rating, and therefore when you're sleeping in a sleeping bag, you're obviously compressing the down and it's actually not insulating you at all. It's keeping the drafts out, but it's not insulating you at all. So therefore, why bother? So you then take that down and put it all above you, which then gives you more warmth for the same weight, or obviously you save weight by not using that down that would normally be beneath you. What are the questions that we tend to get about quilts? There tend to be people who wonder about drafts. Most quilts from different manufacturers have some kind of system which clip to the sleeping mat or go underneath the sleeping mat, a strap or a piece of shot cord or something similar, as a way so that when you turn over on the mat, the quilt stays where it is. Now I started off doing that, using that as a system. I'm going to pour the coffee while I'm talking. And in the end, I found out that really I didn't need it. I tend to find that although I turn like most people do when they're sleeping, if I felt a cold spot which sort of woke me up, oh, popcorn's popping, so let's put the rest in. Then I just kick it back. It didn't really disturb me that much. Right, let's see what happens there. Check this fire. Sorry, bear with me a second. That's the only thing about wood stoves. You've got to just keep yourself sorted. Nice big one, can get that going. So where was I? Quilts. The standard Thermarest quilts that we sell. I've used the Chorus and I've used the few other ones which they've now the Vela and whatever else. They've all been brilliant. The standard size, I'm 6'2", and the standard size still comes up to my neck. I think the only thing that people have to get used to is the cinching of the quilt round the neck. There are various ways to do it, but the best way to do it is clip the quilt together and then bring it over your head like a jumper. But of course, you've got to consider what's going on up here, and so therefore you have to consider wearing a hat or wearing a balaclava or wearing something like that that will keep your head sorted if it's obviously cold. Rose moves a lot in the night, and she loves the quilt. She loves the quilt because it gives her freedom. She always felt constrained in the sleeping bag, although she was, like most women, they get cold very, very quickly. So she would dive into the sleeping bag as soon as we stopped while I put the tent up and all the rest of it. But she's since found the quilt much more flexible and more comfortable. So I think the positives are you get more warmth for the weight. It allows you less restrictions, so you've got much more movement. Drafts are nowhere near as bad as people assume. Yes, there are different systems that clip down to the sleeping mat. The only thing I would say is the ones which you need to look at carefully are the ones where it clips your shoulders down to the sleeping mat, because you tend to find then you're strapped to the mat and you can't sit up. And I think that's the poor design on some of the manufacturers, is the fact you need to be able to unclip at shoulder height so you can sit up and get your food or whatever it might be and still be warm. And then the other downside is obviously the headwear. So you have to consider that as well. But I wouldn't go back to a sleeping bag unless it was actually deep, deep winter and I really had to. Right, I've lost some conversation here. Let's get back to this. view on quilts, Flying Sprout. I hope that answers your question, Flying Sprout. If you want to talk about it more, just give me a call. There are special mats for stoves. Mark, are you asking me or are you telling me? Right, no. Mark, I think you're a bit confused there. Who was it who's mentioned it? Ian McDougall, when he was talking about wood stoves, he was referring to wood camping stoves, I believe, rather than this type of stove. So I would think that he had a stove low on the ground, and it's burned his balcony, as opposed to one of these stoves on legs. So I think that was a bit of confusion. One Wheel Mob, have you ever used wood pellets? Yeah, I've used wood pellets or cat litter. Similar thing, isn't it? In a small camping stove. I found it was okay, but because enough air couldn't get round the fuel, it didn't burn as efficiently. It sort of burned and smouldered more than really gave out a lot of cooking heat. But having said that, a steady smouldering that lasts for a long time is easier to cook on. It just didn't give you that body of warmth that sometimes you want with a wood stove. So I've tried it and yeah, not brilliant. Cool. So yeah, it's starting to get dark now, so the lights are working well, and I don't know if you can hear that. And my popcorn is popping, so my coffee should be ready soon. I've got the old mug mate. I don't know if you've seen one of these, but they're absolutely brilliant. So simple in their idea. It's just a mesh pocket that sits inside the mug, and you can brew your tea or brew your coffee in there, and then you just tap it out afterwards. And of course, tea is organic, so that's not a problem with tea leaves. So that works a treat. Now, the one thing I haven't cracked with popcorn is flavouring it. I'd love to crack the salt and vinegar type flavouring. You're camping. How are we doing? Don't forget the popcorn. No, I haven't forgotten the popcorn. Still popping away. Look at that. And they said camping's roughing it. Look at that. Luxury. Oh! Oh well, something for the dog. Still popping away. Give it another couple of minutes and then I'll be done. Excellent. Excellent. Oh, luxury. So what do you think of my little 3-camera shoot in here then? I think it's quite cool, really. I'm hoping to do a little bit of a tent show, actually, get some of the tents up and then bring people out like this and talk through the different tents. Obviously the Luxe tents that we've got, but I've spoken with MSR about doing a tent show with MSR and having probably half a dozen or so of their lighter end, smaller tents to go through, and they would stay online and help people with any technical questions. Awesome. Just right. Let's see if I can do that again without spewing it all over the place. Look at that. Luxury. Check the fire. Fire's going well. Let's chuck another shrimp on the barbie. Oh, it's going very well. So what ambitions do people have this when this is all over? Are we all going to rush off to the hills or go and find a quiet place to contemplate infinity? Think about life in general and how lucky we've been. I'd certainly love to get a bit of a break. I must admit, it's lovely as it is to be here. It's also like everybody, it's a gilded cage. But I'm lucky to have the space to stretch my legs, if nothing else. Put tents up and play with them. So, is there anything else? Whoops! Is there anything else people would like to see? And you know, there's another conversation really. I've got this facility here. I can get hold of stuff from people from different brands. Has anybody got anything they'd like to see in a bit more detail? Well, Rose will have to come out and get the popcorn, Ian. I'm not taking it into her. Can't do all the work. Rose, once again, is in the chat room, bless her, giving up her Grey's Anatomy. Once again. Martha Wheaton. I'd add versatility to that list. Warmth can be added with good insulating layer that has obviously independent uses. Actually, Martha, good point. That's one thing I forgot to mention. In the last 15 years, I've noticed there's been a change. I suppose part of it is the development of technical fabrics and insulation and how we use them, but also there's also a fashion element as well, I guess, because things now are much more attractive to wear which are insulated than they were 15, 20 years ago. And one thing that I found when I've been doing the TGO Challenge crossing Scotland and watching other people is there's been a trend over the last 5 or 6 years where people will reduce the weight of their quilts, or sleeping bags, but quilts generally, because most people have gone over to quilts. And so as soon as they stop, and as soon as they get the tent up, they get straight into insulated clothing. Obviously, either over the top of their clothing or take their clothing off and put the insulated clothing on. So the body heat that they have been generating is retained by the insulated clothing. And then they'll keep that on when they go to bed and get into the quilt. And then during the night, as they start to overheat, they will then take the layering off. So they're maintaining all that heat retention all the way through. And then first thing in the morning, you do the reverse. As soon as you wake, slide the insulating clothing back on, and once again it retains all that body heat that you have generated and kept to yourself, or kept within the bag or within the quilt during the night. And then while you're pottering around and getting your breakfast and getting things sorted, and then they change into their hiking clothes for the day and they're off. So it's a good point, Martha, and I forgot to mention that. Philip Winter reminds me my son left some popcorn in the kitchen. Microwave popcorn in the kitchen. Microwave, honestly. John He, during the lockdown, what do most people seem to be asking about purchasing at present? I know I've been replenishing older kit. I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? In our current social climate, there are people who are employed and they've been lucky enough to be furloughed, lucky in the sense that they are getting 80% of their salary, if what you hear is correct. They're saving at least 20% in travelling and running the car and all the usual things. So they're kind of people who are sticking at home and thinking about their shopping and doing exactly what you say, replenishing old gear. They're researching things very thoroughly, asking very detailed questions. There's also people, we've sold a lot of honey stoves just lately. So I think people are just researching the idea of the novelty and the interest of having a wood burning stove. Helps pass the time, it's a different experience, different skill. So I think a bit of everything, John, really. The ones who are not, well, I've got to choose my words carefully here. I can't say struggling, but potentially struggling, are people like Rose and I. We're self-employed, so when although it's a business, we're not a limited company, so it isn't legally a business from the government's point of view. So we're self-employed. So thankfully, the website and the type of things that we do are of enough interest that it's okay at the moment. But if it stopped, it certainly wouldn't be okay, and there is no such thing as a parachute at the moment for people like us. But I'm where I am in a rural environment where we are at the moment. You know, a lot of plumbers and florists and, you know, people that sort of make their living, albeit a small living, from craft fairs and that type of thing, so fall into that self-employed category, and it's just come to a grinding halt. Dog walkers, you know, there's all sorts of things like that, really. So, to answer your question though, it does seem to be that people are looking at their shelter system and novelty items, or upgrading their items, like you're saying, and researching things very well too before they do that. Can you hear that blackbird singing? It's a tree just here. It's beautiful. But I know a lot of bricks and mortar shops who have not created a website and built the business from that point of view. Thanks, Bob. John. Oh yeah, you're welcome, John. They're certainly struggling. Friends of ours have just started a website at Christmas time, and they are amazed at how it's gone for them. The timing of it has worked exceedingly well. So just as they're hit by the change of everything with COVID, they're actually managed to keep going. But there are a lot of people that we know that have just got caught, unfortunately, and they're just waiting, like we all are in some respects. So I hope those people that are watching, I hope you guys are all okay and life isn't looking too bad for you. Philip Winter, I've been looking through my kit. My daughter is doing a lot of walking camping in Scotland, so I'm keen to see if she can use some of my expensive and not that well used kit. What sort of age is your daughter, Philip? Because if they're the same age that ours were when we tried to educate them into making their life a bit easier, it was a very hard job, because teenagers don't want to be the odd ones out. However, when they did Duke of Edinburgh, they did the bronze one with all the heavy duty kit and stuff that the school provided, then realised that things could be easier and actually benefited after that. So I hope your daughter will take some good advice. Martha, I love my EE synthetic insulated trousers. Yeah, actually getting hold of decent insulated trousers, Martha, is pretty difficult, isn't it, in the UK? Montaigne do some prism pants, which have got Primaloft in. It's not a massive amount of Primaloft, but they are insulated. Rab did some, how many years ago now? 8, 9 years ago, Rab did some photon pants, which are really good. And they were sort of for real winter touring, hiking rather, and they had a long zip down both sides. So I took mine to a seamstress and got the zips taken out, and I love them. They're still the best thing since sliced bread as far as I'm concerned, and I haven't seen anything else coming close to it on the marketplace. Andy in UK, thumbs up. Oh, I missed a question somewhere, Andy. Now we talk about insulated clothing. I remember when we first started in 2005, went to the trade show, and there was only, at the time, Rab and PhD doing insulated jackets and stuff, I seem to remember. And we met the lovely people from Clattermusen in Sweden. Are they Swedish? I think they're Sweden. what a fascinating company, and still going strong. Now, Clatomusen stuff, if you ever see that, it is magnificently made, really, really high quality stuff. Not the lightest in the world, and certainly not the cheapest. But at the time, they had the smock, which was a down smock, which I still use now, and we imported them for a while. And there was nobody else really doing a down smock at the time. But even the design of it was very, very contemporary. And they're still doing it now, still doing that item now. But the one thing about Clatomusen, I was going to say, that, you know how everybody's banging on about being environmentally friendly, recycling and all the rest of it now. It's very much, or before COVID, was very much a hot topic. Quite rightly too, plastics and all that sort of stuff. They were, 15 years ago, they were taking the offcuts from their rucksacks. And there was no waste in the factory. So basically any offcuts, any odd shapes, any odd sizes, they would stitch together and create bulletproof bags from. So we picked up shopping bags, which had sort of climbing straps on them and odd bits of stuff like that. Basically, it'll never ever fail on you. But their environmental policy and their recycling policy was absolutely second to none. And they were just streets ahead, years ahead of the current thinking, the current way of thinking. Oh, I've got the wrong camera on all this time, sorry. Talking to the wrong camera. The current way of thinking. Clatomusen, absolutely magnificent. So if you ever see any of their stuff, do give it a look. It pops up occasionally on that horrible place called Sports Pursuit, which everybody seems to be dumping stock on at the moment. And it's well worth a look, whether it's a jackets, trousers, rucksacks, or whatever it may be. Yeah, I have actually almost eaten all popcorn, Rose. I'll save you a couple of bits. Philip, she did DV Bronze, Glasgow Uni Mountaineering Club. Oh, right, so she's Glasgow Uni, so late teens, I'd guess, then, in that case. Yeah, in that case, then, yes, she should be easy to educate and enlighten about the way to look at things. I think when they do bronze, they take far too many lotions, potions and hair products. And by the time they get to gold, they smell. Bike packing adventure. Have you thought about setting up a super chat so some of your viewers can say thank you for all the years you put into your outdoor community and podcasts and videos that you've done? That's very kind of you to say that, bike packing adventure. In fact, I have recently, let me just find it. I've recently set up a Ko-fi and Patreon account, which I don't sort of try and push too hard, but if people wish to support me and particularly the podcasts, they can do so by either just buying a coffee, a one-off coffee, which a few people that are online have done, and I'm very grateful to them, or Patreon, a regular donation. And of course, the podcasts are all over the place, and you can find them in numerous places. Let's get back to the chat page. But thank you very much indeed for the thought, bike packing. That's good of you. Have I missed a question from Andy? I'll just get thumbs up from Andy. Thank you for the thumbs up, Andy. Well, it's turning into a very pleasant evening. And that's a lovely cup of coffee. And the fire is, you see the fire? Oh, take that out of the way. Yes. You can see the appeal for this, can't you? Sitting around one of these when there's a chill in the evening and everybody else on the campsite or whatever is wrapped up in their thick clothes, and you're just sitting back eating your garlic bread, which you've done on the stove, popcorn, this particular stove design, Rose has got the link that she might put in the chat room now for the new version of this stove. The problem I have with it is the airflow. The airflow isn't quite well calculated for the amount of exhaust that the fumes need. So it either starves itself or it burns too fast. It's very, very hard to get that nice balance. But the idea of it was these things at the side are supposed to be for potatoes or garlic bread, I guess. So you put your potatoes in there and do your potatoes slowly, and then you've got this sort of flat grill affair on the top, which it all hinges and all clips and all comes apart and stuff. But I prefer to have a flat surface on top that you can actually cook on. Is actually more effective from a heat point of view. But as I say, it was a novelty at the time, and it did the job. It's nice to have, and I must save some popcorn for Rose, or she'll tell me off. Neil Oakley, is a single pole teepee better in strong wind than a geodesic? That's a big question, actually. I would think that one of the better quality geodesics would be much better in a strong wind, depending on how high it was. Certainly one of the 3-pole geodesics, and they are usually tested to quite a rate in the wind tunnels. Certainly MSR and Terra Nova, I think, do, and Fjallraven, not Fjallraven, who am I thinking of? Hillyberg and Hellsport. Hellsport's the other one. They tend to test their tents to quite an extreme. The teepee tents we found to be pretty good. The advantage to a teepee as opposed to a sort of rectangular tent, like the old the Go Light, what are they called? The Go Light 4, was it? Go Light 4 and the Go Light 5, and the Nygor Wiki Up 4, which was a sort of square footing, is that, or rectangular, is that when the wind changed and the wind hit one of the flat panels, it really did. There was a lot of material there that it was hitting. And certainly I found from being in Scotland and pitching the any of the hex peaks, not this, but the hex peaks, the smaller ones, it just shed the wind no problem at all. The wind would just go any particular direction, and it wasn't a problem at all from that point of view. So from a backpacking point of view, I would say a single pole structure is better than you might think it is, but certainly in a Scandinavian 60, 70 plus Icelandic type weather, I think I would probably be tempted to go geodesic if I could afford to, depending on the time of year. I don't know if that answers your question well enough, but you know, it's defined strong wind. But I think on the whole, single pole teepee tents actually work a lot better than similar sized family tents with a tall structure, definitely. What was Mark asking? Mark was asking something. What about stoves and synthetic materials? Is that what you mean? Stoves and synthetic materials, nylon, etc. Well, this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this tonight, actually, and I'm doing it live, and obviously it could all go horribly wrong, but I wanted to see how much heat this would give out with the amount of fuel that I put in it, and what it would be like in the tent, and does it go past being comfortably warm to being stiflingly hot, and also what's the effect on the material. And looking around, material is just comfortably warm and dry. Let's have a look over on the stove jack and see what that's like up here. Well, I wouldn't want to touch that, that's hot. But that's not close to being melted at all. And the stove is, whoops, the stove is, oh, it's all right, it's not going mad, is it? As I say, it's not brilliant. There's definitely, I think, people would favour the canvas tents, possibly, just because they might take a little bit more punishment before they ignite. We did have one customer that had the Megahorn 3, and I don't know how he did it or what he did, but he didn't use a tent protector collar on the chimney. He just put the chimney straight through the stove jack and managed to melt the stove jack and some of the tent. So all I can think of is he must have just had a furnace going. So it is possible to damage the tent, but I think you've got to allow for a certain amount of common sense with something like this, haven't you, really? But I think, well, again, a lot of people are using these in the winter. Phil Osborne, my Megahorn 2 performed very well in high winds. I woke one morning on the Anglesey coast to see most of the tents flattened on the coast high and exposed. Excellent. Well, that's proof of the pudding, isn't it, Phil? Excellent. Thank you. Neil Oakley, thanks, Phil. Excellent. That's what he wanted to hear. Good, good. Billy's Little Big Adventure channel. Oh, hi there. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining in. Bike packing. One bike pack I use a Six Moons Designs Lunar Solo, which is a single pole. It does well in the wind, but I've never taken it on a mountain top though. You must be under 6 foot then in that case, bike packing, because I found the Lunar Solo just too claustrophobic for me, and I also found the condensation in it far greater than I would have liked for 3-season backpacking. I did use it high winds, and providing it didn't get under that front flap, it was okay. It was good. So I fell out of love with it, just purely for nothing else, with the condensation and having a shower every morning. Matthew McFarlane, love my Megahorn shelter. It's perfect for on a bike, and I've been travelling with a cheese stove through the stove jack. No problem with melting. Previous customer must have been melting inside. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. With the cheese stove. Is that? I have to wonder what a cheese stove is, or maybe it's just a typing error. Ah, 5'7" bike packing. Yes, yes. In that case, then it would be fine for you. Right. Well, I think we've had a good hour, folks, and thank you very much indeed for joining me. I must save some popcorn for Rose, otherwise she'll spit the dummy. Is there any other sort of final questions or topics or anything you want to just touch on before we shut down, or anything you want to see with the tent? You've seen the fire. The fire has been trickling away. As I say, it's not roaring, but it's certainly more than enough to keep the tent warm. It's lovely. I could quite happily take this jacket off, and I can feel the cold draft coming in from outside, so it's very pleasant. And if I was at a I don't know, if I was at a bushcraft show, or if I was at the Bodgers Ball or somewhere similar, I would love to have something like this sitting away, and you could sit around and chew the fat and share a few beers with people. Wonderful. So it's a lovely feeling. Oh, the G stove, not the cheese stove. What's a cheese stove? Yes, yeah, the G stove. They're equally good, aren't you? Right. Mark Osland, what chair are you using? I am using one of the Helinox chairs. Just the bog standard Helinox chairs, which is extremely comfortable. The design is staying the same for this next season, or this season. The colours are changing apparently, but no, it's lovely. I mean, I'm not a small fella, and it's very comfortable. So yeah, thank you for that. Just want to point out to guys, make sure you have a carbon monoxide tester. If we haven't already mentioned that, you don't want to wake up dead. Indeed, Matthew, with that conversation was had a bit earlier on about having, I wouldn't sleep in here without a carbon monoxide detector, certainly, and I certainly recommend that to our customers, that they should get one as well. Best investment you could make, certainly. John He, thanks again, Bob and Rose, blessed relief from the current doom and gloom. You're welcome, John, and that's one of the reasons we're doing the live streams, is to just break away from what's going on around us for an hour or so and just chew the fat with some fellow outdoor buddies, basically. Yes, Mark, thanks, see you next time, see you too, and see you all next time as well. Right, guys, well, I'm going to sign off now. So thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. A bit waffly at times, but it's given you a shared experience of hot tenting in a cool spring evening. So until next time, folks, take care, look after yourselves, look after your loved ones, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.